Here it is, look out to the right. From FUBAR Aviation in Poland, the WSK-Mielec LIM-5, the Polish version of the Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17F. The first flight of a proper MiG-17 prototype took place in early 1950. It was followed by release to state testing units in the Soviet Union in late 1951. Straight away, it showed its superiority over its MiG-15 predecessor. And this MiG-17 was incredibly heavily armed for its day, with a very potent cannon in particular. With the Klimov VK-1F afterburning turbojet engine. In fact, the early MiG-17s didn't have an afterburning engine. It was the MiG-17F model, of which this is a Polish license-built version, that brought that uprated engine with afterburner, and it gave it a supersonic dash capability as well. And here it is in landing configuration to give you a closer.
When MiG-17s came to be used against American fighters during the Vietnam War in the early 60s, they initially proved to be extremely potent aircraft. Most American jets at the time, like the F-4, were built to be fast, long-range fighter bombers with a hefty weapons payload, but that did come at the expense of manoeuvrability. The MiG-17 couldn't match them for straight-line speed, but it was built to be extremely agile. It could turn faster and tighter than anything else in the sky, and its turn performance wouldn't be matched until the F-16 came along in the mid-1970s.
Yes, North Vietnamese MiG-17F pilots realised they could defeat most American jets by drawing them into a close-in, turning dogfight, too close for the use of missiles, and achieving kills with guns. And also, as we can see, it's a small design. It was hard to gain and maintain visual contact with it. 28 aerial victories are believed to have been scored by North Vietnamese MiG-17s against American aircraft in Vietnam.
But the MiG-17 pilots didn't necessarily have to score a kill for their missions to have been deemed successful.
And to bomber types of the era, and a US Navy report makes amazing reading. One significant line: every Navy pilot engaged in the project lost his first engagement with the Fresco Sea. Fresco being the NATO reporting name given to the MiG-17. It said also US pilots were not accustomed to fighting an airplane with such an engine and turn performance combination. The Navy recommended that its A4 Skyhawk, A6 Intruder and A7 Corsair strike jets should never engage the MiG-17 in combat.
But in time, the tests did begin to reveal some of the MiG-17's weaknesses. Every American jet will be outturned by the MiG at low speed, but the faster it flew, the less compelling the MiG-17's performance became, and the less effective its control surfaces were. those learnings, the US military was able to alter its tactics and much improve its kill ratio against MiG-17s in Vietnam, which stood at 2-to-1 before the hand drill trials, but climbed to 8-to-1 afterwards.
MiG-17s were among the mainstays of that famous US Air Force unit, the Red Eagles, the 4,477th Test and Evaluation Squadron, based at Groom Lake, where further evaluation and use of these aircraft in dissimilar combat training went on until the early 1980s. This one dates from 1958. It's a LIM 5 built by the WSK-Mielec plant in Poland. It carried on in service with the Polish Air Force until 1991.
WSK-Mielec wasn't satisfied in producing mere copies of the MiG-17, and they did set about trying to improve it by adding, for example, extra fuel tanks and fitting new communication systems. By and large, the authorities in the Soviet Union blocked any attempt to modify the MiG or imposed their own cumbersome requirements that badly affected the aircraft's handling in response. Nonetheless, of the roughly 10,000 MiG-17s completed, about 500 were Polish-built LIM 5s.
This aircraft actually spent some time in Britain when it was sold by the Polish Air Force. The old Flying Machine Company, owners of Spitfire MH434 that we saw earlier, were very into jets in the mid-1990s. This one arrived at Duxford in their ownership in 1995. It was never destined to fly in the UK, sadly, until this year, having been sold in 2023 to its current owners, FUBAR Aviation. Here it comes for its last pass. What a display by Bart Matsishik in the FUBAR Aviation LIM 5. MiG-21
they have
is going to join them.
What a tantalising prospect that is. The aircraft arriving in their hangar just in the last week or two. Yeah, imagine that.
Terrific stuff. Bart heading back to Duxford, where the aircraft is lodging for this summer.